Back when Fireball Roberts was setting all kind of records in this famous gold and black Pontiac that was built by Smokey Yunick, Wendell Scott, perhaps the most successful black driver to ever run in NASCAR stock car racing, was trying to make his way in the sport. He was having a tough time of it because he really didn't have the kind of equipment that he needed to run up front. But Steve, I believe, had he had equipment like this, I believe that Wendell Scott would have proven to be a good race driver.
You know, Ned, he was just as much of a pioneer to stock car racing as Jackie Robinson is to baseball. And I guess in general, the fact that he's not more widely recognized is because stock car racing wasn't getting anywhere near the type of attention that it gets today. You know, you may remember a few years ago a movie called Greased Lightning, which starred Richard Pryor. Well, that was not a Hollywood script. That was the life and times of Wendell Scott.
Wendell Scott was born 63 years ago in Danville, Virginia. He developed an early respect for cars and engines, his father an outstanding mechanic. Wendell won 128 sportsman races during his career and claimed one Grand National victory, beating names like Petty, Pearson, and Jarrett. Wendell forged his racing apprenticeship as a whiskey runner up and down Tobacco Road. He built fast cars, and he outran the local police most of the time.
Oh, yeah. That's really how I got started in racing. They opened up a little small track in Danville called the Dixie Speedway, and they wanted to get some black drivers, and they thought they didn't know who to approach, so they went to the police department to find out what black guys had speeding records and things like that. So they told them they want somebody who could drive a race car to see me. So that's how I started racing.
You had to do things a little bit differently because you didn't have the financial backing that myself and a lot of other people had on the circuit back then, and there were stories that you would get out and make your own pit stop, change tires, or service your car when you'd come in.
Well, some of that was true, but it wasn't to the extent that they built it up to be. And you take my old Chevrolet, I had a sign on it, Mechanic Me, and people used to get a lot of kick out of that. But most of the work I had to do myself, and I had that on it. People would ask me who was my pit crew, who was my mechanic, I said me, and I was.
What was the biggest thrill you had in racing?
Well, I had a lot of thrills. It looked like it would have been when I won the race in Jacksonville, Florida in '63, but for a while it wasn't a thrill because it was 2 or 3 hours later before I was declared the winner.
They flagged Buck Baker the winner?
Yeah. Jack Smith second, and I was third.
But you knew that you'd won the race?
I had passed Buck Baker 3 times. I only made 1 pit stop for gas and didn't lose a lap, and I knew I had won. And Jack Smith had the fastest time, and if they had had him the winner, it would have been a question in my mind whether I had won or not. But him and Neil Castle got hung up, and they went out across the infield once, and I didn't know how long he stayed in the infield. But it wasn't no question in my mind about Buck Baker. I knew I had won the race.
You know, Ned, it wasn't until Wendell Scott was about 50 years old that he finally felt that he had a car competitive to run on this circuit.
He had to go way out on the limb, went in debt to buy that car, but he wanted to run competitively one time in his life. But as luck would have it, it didn't work out for him because he was involved in a 21-car accident here at Talladega that basically ended his career. We'll have that story after this.